Okay, so for those members of the public that are just getting here, we are now convening after having closed session, and the time is 6:03 PM. And we're going to start out with item 1.1, our closed session. And,
Roll call.
roll call first. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's do 2.1 roll call.
President Malinali Lopez
Yes.
and Trustee Rich Carnation,
Yes.
Trustee Paul Cagorno,
Yes.
Trustee Stephanie Ahmad,
Here.
and Vice President, or President usually, Bill Adams, absent. Look at me, I did my part. All right.
Okay, and I'm sorry, do we have any report outs on the closed session?
We do. We probably do the flag salute first, and then we'll do the
Oh, I see.
report out.
Okay. So our flag salute will be led by Trustee Carnation.
Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for 2.3, we do have a report out of closed session. Trustee Lopez will explain what the report out was.
Okay, so do you want to do that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let's do 2.3 report out of closed session.
And then it's 1.4.
Oh.
We have to hop back and forth.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we met in closed session about item 1.4, which is our consideration of student readmission case number 110822.
So I'll make a motion to deny readmission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that looks like that's all.
401.
401.
Or no, it's,
I'm sorry, 40,
what is it?
right?
It's 4-0.
4-0.
and Trustee Adams is absent.
Okay, 401. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. And now we are moving on to item 1.5, which is the consideration of approval of personnel assignment order number 2023-07.
Well, it's the same thing.
We're actually going to be in, so we're in section 3 now. Section 3, so we would do Board of Trustees report.
Oh, I see. Okay, because we didn't have to say that one. Okay, thank you. All right, item 3.1 is the Board of Trustees report.
So I can start. I don't have much of a report for today. I feel like this is our last meeting of the fiscal year. It's been a busy year. It's been a busy year back, but it's been a really good year. I don't have any really substantive comments today because I am totally fried from this year. But I'm looking forward to coming back strong in August, finishing off strong today. Good to see members of the public here who've stuck with us into late June. So appreciate you all being here.
I guess I'll just say that, kind of echo what Stephanie said, that it's been an interesting half a year for me. I haven't come on the board in December, and it's been a learning process. I'm still learning, and I just want to thank my other fellow board members for their support, and our superintendent and everyone involved. It's quite a process. It's more than I thought, coming on. So everyone's been really great, and just looking forward to, like Sarah said, just refreshing and coming back in August, ready to go.
Okay. Trustee Carnation, anything?
Just that we had a joint town council, school board meeting a couple of nights ago. And it has been reported to me by our friend Karen Alves that I waxed eloquently for a long period of time. So I will not talk anymore and recapture some of those minutes and give it back to the public.
Well done.
Okay. So I just want to add on to that and say that from our joint meeting with the town council, I was very pleased to hear about a number of projects the town is doing, with children to put art up around town. So I love, that kind of project because it helps our children to feel more included and participate in our community. So that is my update for that. And then my second update is I know that there has been, some promotions of staff this past year. And I'm really pleased to see our staff grow in their professional career. So I'm very proud of that. Okay, any other updates? Nope. Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to item 3.2. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments to the agenda.
Okay, so now we'll move to item 3.3. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? So no public comments? Okay. So 3.4 is the approval of minutes from June 15th. Do I need a motion for this?
You do.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from June 15th of 2023?
I'll move to approve the minutes from June 15th.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
4-0. Thank
Trustee
you.
Adams absent.
And then you want me to
So,
consent items.
yes, please.
Okay, moving on to consent items, the 4.1 through 4.5. Do we want to pull, I think we want to pull 4, 5 off of the consent items. And so if we pull that off, do we discuss it now or?
You would pull it off, and
Okay.
then you would approve the items that weren't pulled.
Okay.
And then you would discuss that item individually.
Got it. Okay, great. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent items 4.1 through 4.4, and we'll pull 4.5 off for discussion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0.
Okay. For 4.5, we have the language that's there. It's good, and I think we maybe have just a slight little modification that Malinelli kind of worked on. This is her committee, a subcommittee that she was working on and stuff. And so if she's got it and wants to read what she'd like to, anyhow, I think it'd be good.
Thank you. So I would like to read it, but first I wanted to explain my thought process. So about a year ago, I suggested that our board adopt a land acknowledgement because, part of my vision is always to build a more inclusive community. And I wanted to have a statement that looked to the past, but that also looked to the future with the hopes of inspiring more collaboration with our Indigenous communities and our Indigenous neighbors here in Windsor. So with that said, this is what inspired the land acknowledgement. So here it is. We acknowledge that we gather as the Windsor Unified School District in the town of Windsor on the ancestral homelands of the Miwok, Pomo, and Wapo tribes that historically have spanned an area from the Pacific coast to the northern San Francisco Bay Area and to the Lake District in Northern California, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We acknowledge that members of the Windsor Unified School District community have benefited and continue to benefit from the use and occupation of the land. With this acknowledgement, we welcome a spirit of collaboration and of being guided by the original stewards of this land as we embrace our responsibility to value education, community, and learning opportunities across our diverse cultures.
Excellent. That would be a proposal that's different than the language that was in here. So I think that we would make a motion to either approve that or modify it, whatever you guys want to do.
Does anybody want to make any comments, or do we want to just entertain a motion to approve, or what do you all think?
Well, it's different than what's in here. So I would actually like to see it written out, so to be able to actually read it myself and look through it. I mean, it sounded great, but just to go over it.
Jeremy, is it possible that we can, I don't know if table's the right word, but we could table this, have somebody print it out for us real quick, and then we can look at it and then come back
Yeah, we
to
can
it?
always come back
You'd
to
be
the
okay with
item.
that?
Yes.
Because
Okay.
that way we can get it done tonight,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if
let's see if there's
that'll
anybody.
work.
Deborah, is there any, can we send it to Deborah,
Yes.
dryan@wusd.org? Deborah, would you be willing to go back and print what's sent to you? Okay, thank you. 6, or actually just 5.
I thought it sounded really good. I just have a question because you know how in the agenda, how we have it now, it has like the description and then it has the acknowledgement. This would be the actual acknowledgement that we say every time.
The description would stay the same.
The description stays the same and then the acknowledgement becomes lengthier
Yeah.
and more descriptive.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
I liked it.
Can you send that to, Deborah? So I'm just forwarded your message.
Yes.
Yeah.
D. Ryan, right?
dryan@wusd.org.
Yeah, so Rich is on top of it.
Okay. Well, then we can,
WUSD
wusd.org.
dot O-R-G. There you go.
Okay, so we will come back to item.
Can I make one small comment? I think it would be helpful for it to be published in an agenda though, or just so that it's somewhere, or I don't know where it will be published. I'm sure it will be put somewhere, but I just think that like for the future, even though we're approving it probably today, it would be nice for it to kind of come back at some point in something that's posted publicly.
Sure, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Understood.
That's her email.
Oh.
Send it. Maybe just have her. Where's
Oh, there
Deborah?
it is.
She's already
Oh,
back.
just ask her to just cut and paste just that.
It's gone. It's already done.
Do you want me to go? Oh, sorry.
Okay,
I didn't mean to do.
So
so we are tabling item 4.5 for
Just
later
until
tonight.
until later in the agenda.
Okay, so is there a specific place that you think we should bring it back in?
Probably just at the very end, I would
At the very
assume.
end,
So
okay.
we can make 4.5, we can move it down to be considered after 5.9.
Okay,
It doesn't change its number, but it would just be considered after item 5.9.
okay, that's great. So thank you. So now we're going to go on to our discussion items. 5.1 technology update. This item is going to be presented by Brad Rigney, Instructional and Technology Services Director. Thank you, Brad.
Greetings, trustees, fellow cabinet members, coworkers, and the community. As you know, last year I did a video, and this year I did another video. We had a lot of major projects this year, so I made it a little bit later because I wanted to see a bunch of projects through completion before I presented them to everybody. So without further ado, my video is coming up as we speak. In this day and age, maintaining the technology infrastructure of a school district like Windsor Unified is ongoing and requires regular refreshing of our critical systems to allow us to keep up to date with the ever-growing needs of our teachers, learners, and community. And with that, the Windsor Unified Tech Team has been hard at work. Our new phone system consists of Polycom Voice over IP phones using the Zoom Cloud platform. This allows for phones to leverage our network to make calls and puts all back-end hardware in the cloud. In addition to eliminating fail points by using cloud equipment, we gain some great features as part of the Zoom platform. Some of these Zoom features are the ability to make calls from any device. This includes the telephone, staff laptops, and any tablet or smartphone that they'd like to install it on. This means that they can act as if they're on the phone at work from any location. Some other great Zoom features are the ability to convert a phone call into a meeting. So if you're having a phone call with a family and you want to share a document or
add more people, you can convert that call right to a meeting within the app. Another great thing is a searchable directory. If I'm a staff and I'm looking for another staff at any site, I simply have to open the Zoom app, type in their name, click the person, and my phone starts dialing. SMS and texting. Staff can now send text messages via the new system, allowing them to message staff and families without using their personal phones or number. Parents can even text in absence messages to the high school. The clock speakers are made by a company called Advanced Network Devices, and the system that controls it is called Single Wire Informacast. This system ties in with our new phone system to issue alerts, issue public announcements, and trigger bells. You can also control these systems using a smartphone app and a web interface. In addition to alerting school sites via the clock speakers, district administrators and local police are notified when lockdown and shelter-in-place alerts are issued at any campus. As part of our ongoing network upgrade project, we have completed replacing all backbone equipment, placing all network switches on all campuses with brand new Cisco Meraki hardware. In addition to refreshing aging network equipment, upgrading our hardware has brought our network infrastructure into the future by adding redundancy, upgrading performance, and adding more security to our network. This upgrade to all Cisco Meraki hardware has also given us some tools to proactively monitor and mitigate issues before they become a problem. Most times, we are automatically alerted of issues long before they are noticed by staff and students. With uptime being the tech team's highest priority, the visibility, alerts, and control we have all from a single pane of glass has been invaluable in solving problems quickly. We can even monitor all of this stuff remotely, and in many cases, fix or identify problems without even stepping foot on campus. One of my favorite features is the ability to perform a wire test from the Meraki dashboard. In the past, this required usually 2 people on site and testing equipment. Upgraded staff computers. In addition to providing laptops for all teaching staff, we have been expanding this effort into all administrative staff, ensuring modern devices for all staff who need it. We've also introduced new touchscreen Chromebooks for this year's incoming students and for all TK through 2 classrooms. We find that touchscreens are much better for the lower level. There's sound here, I promise.
Pause it. Are you running this?
I am not running.
No.
All right, it's taking over.
Well, these are our security cameras.
Remember all the things that I said. My best. This is about Verkada alarm systems. What we've done is we've added to our camera system a alarm package. Boy, can you pause? This is now, I'm way behind.
That's all right.
Okay. I say so many good things here about how we got a lease for all of our computer labs, and that way every 5 years we can make sure that our special programs are constantly up to date rather than one-time purchases that get forgotten about down the road. Since the core programs only get a certain amount of money for technology every year, the lease makes perfect sense because we can use the amount that they give for each 5-year payment. This is Go Guardian. This is Go Guardian. This is where teachers can see what's going on student screens. It also helps us make sure that they're on task by saying they can only go to a certain list of websites, whether or not that's now we're Parent Square. Parent Square, as you know, is our new district-wide communication system in collaboration with Heather. This is a unified place for all information, and it will be the platform for our website so that all communication from all sites is in a single place for everybody to see. Here's me talking about the new printing system that Deborah's taking advantage of right now, because she could have printed her file from here and then got and received it from any copier in the entire district by typing in her code. It's called Uniflow. Here's some future projects we're going to be working on. So we're on internet routers and hardware, right? So when the internet goes down, we've got cellular backup. That's going to keep our phones and our PAs up. Updating servers and backend systems, cybersecurity, self-explanatory. On and offboarding, making sure we have people coming on and off with speed and fidelity when it comes to making sure everything's are done. And I didn't get to read the last one. This is a 4-day time lapse that I took at the top of the high school, and it's really cool. If you look at all 4 days, you'll see hot air balloons and all kinds of neat stuff. I will post the link to the full video with all of the audio in the credits of this guy. You might have questions. I don't know if video's over or not.
Go ahead.
So about this for people.
Sure.
Does anybody from the public want to comment on this? No? Okay, so, trustees, are there comments?
Yeah, when I was looking at the pictures, I saw a whole bunch of license plates right about when everything went dark. So do we have, I believe license plate capture is a special camera and a special software.
LiDAR. Yeah.
Is that what's called LiDAR?
Maintenance Yard experienced several break-ins over the last year. And so what we did, this was actually started, I'll talk about the Brigada alarm system thing actually. So we did two things, added cameras at that location, as well as added the alarm system package to the entire org, right? So basically any camera now on certain hours, like after hours, turns into a sensor. So if any motion is noticed, so you saw Brian right there riding up on his bike not too long ago. So we have some of the footage that actually triggered our Brigada alarm system because he pulled in after hours. That triggers a call to, somebody at Brigada looks, they decide if it's a threat. They actually make a call to somebody on campus, and we make a call whether or not that's a threat or something that needs to be dealt with. And so that's kind of what you just saw there, right? It identifies, so cameras can identify, yes, license plate numbers and read the numbers. There's a special LiDAR camera that sees that depth, the relief on the numbers. We can also identify colors. We can identify faces. We can identify just humans and things like crowds. So we can get alerts on if there's a large amount of people in a certain area, stuff like that. It's a very, very cool system.
Do we have, thank
I could
you.
also tell you that we've got Vercada sensors in our freezers and refrigerators now, so that we know if food is getting to a spoiling, if basically the fridges go down, we'll know, and we can actually act on that before food spoils. There's another piece of that.
This is cool stuff. See, that's the high tech. The low tech version, we put like a glass that's frozen and a quarter on the top. And then if you come home after you think power was out, and if the quarter, depending on how far the quarter went down and then refroze, that's how you know whether or not your food went bad. But I like yours is better. The one thing that, I guess was, do we have battery backups in all the major hub areas?
The big areas.
The big areas?
The high school has a generator, and we have a battery backup that goes in between the generator, because the generator takes a minute or so to start.
Mm-hmm.
So the nuts and bolts of the whole org actually go into the high school, right? So that's where the internet comes in, so to speak, and then it spokes out to all the sites via our dark fiber network. So yes, we can keep that up and be a generator for a period of time. So that means that certain parts of the high school will be up if the internet is working, right? Even so, if the connection from SCO is broken or not. And then certain key areas, like so the big, where the internet hits each site, that is also battery backed up. One of the next step projects is to re-up our batteries, because they're several years old at this point, with newer ones that notify us when they're getting low on battery and stuff like that.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I had a question about the TK to grade 2 touchscreens computers. Are those laptops or what?
Yeah, well, sort of. Yeah, they're Chromebooks.
Chromebooks.
So Chromebooks is essentially a browser.
Yeah. Now, how many did we get?
That particular order was actually, we ordered about 2,000 of
Oh.
that particular model. So since I've been here, we've
Okay.
ordered probably 40 pallets of Chromebooks.
Okay.
Right. So the pandemic hit the day I showed up, or
Okay.
a couple months before I showed up. The first thing I did was spend $2 million on 30 pallets of Chromebooks.
So the idea is to be 1-to-1 in,
We are one-to-one.
okay. Okay.
Every single student is assigned a
I
Chromebook. There's
didn't
one
know.
for every
Okay.
single one of them. In addition, we've got extras in every room. So that's what I was meaning there. So we've got those extras in every room are those models for those grade levels.
No, I think it's great. And touchscreen for that grade level, for those grade levels is a good idea.
Well, actually, this
Really good.
last year, we were able to afford that model for all incoming
Oh,
students.
that's
You come in
really-
at TKK 3, 6, or 9.
I like a touchscreen. Yeah, I can so
We
used
got a
to
better
it.
deal of them after the
Yeah.
pandemic for whatever reason.
Great. Thank you.
I think Trustee Amon has a comment.
Yes. So we had a lot of changes in technology since you've been here because you came right around when the pandemic hit. And like before that time, which was only 3 years ago, we had presentations where we were deciding like, should we be one-to-one? Like, what should we do? And then when the pandemic hit, it became very clear that we had to become one-to-one. And fortunately, there was funding that came in to support that as well. And so it's really been a lot of change, kind of, especially that during that time. And then this past year, kind of upgrade all these system upgrades, it seems like that you've led. And I'm wondering, kind of looking ahead to this coming year, how do you see, is this another year of big projects? Is it kind of more like we've gotten situated? Like how do you see that going?
That's a super good question. Yes, we are coming at the tail end of a lot of major projects, but we have a fair amount of major ones still coming. We've replaced phones. We've replaced the network, right? Now we're in fine-tuning mode. And things that I'm looking at are things like cybersecurity, right? Things that sort of layer on top of what we've done, right? We had to do the baseline by just replacing equipment. Now it's configuration tweaks. Now it's process tweaks. And I'm also working on new support communication structure too. I'm looking at new ticket systems and different ways that my team internally can deal with tickets as they come in. Also automating things in the on and off boarding space, right? So one of the things that we have struggle with, right? So now that we have phones, we have computers, we have, there's codes and keys and access to programs and all of that stuff. And there's a massive list of that stuff to get done and then undone when offboarding happens. And there's a lot of work around that. So I think a big piece is sort of this office modernization, on and offboarding, streamlining process that's coming. And that's big. Like those are pieces that really we need to do to just get things faster and more streamlined and focused.
Did you want to add more? No. So I just wanted to say, kudos to you and your hard work, and also all the teachers, because I remember that moment when we were shifting to online during the pandemic, and I remember getting all those messages from my daughter's teachers about, oh, do you have a laptop at home? We just want to make sure that you have one. So I know everyone worked really, really hard to make sure that every single child had a laptop to work from. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, and I just wanted to also add that I loved your time lapse as somebody that makes videos for a living. So yeah, so
YouTube channel, 300 time lapses.
yeah, so and I also want to say that the video was really important because I think sometimes we take things for granted and we don't see all the hard work that happens behind the scenes. So for me, it's very symbolic to see your server with all the wires, because I think that we need to acknowledge how much hard work our staff does, to basically, make every day happen for the kids. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And the thing about a good technology team is it's invisible. So
Yes,
you don't see it. If it works, we
exactly.
don't see it.
Right. So thank you for, putting together that video.
Absolutely. I wish you could have heard the second half of it, but again, I'll make sure the link is well published.
And also, I believe we have one more comment.
Just a follow-up. In your presentation, you mentioned that oftentimes you guys are able to, you have software that you can fix things before it gets to us regular people. And then you can fix those. I know that a lot of times teachers are doing a lot of work in the evening. They're correcting, doing different stuff. Do we have, I don't know the answer to this, do we have somebody that's on call? So let's say I'm teaching and I'm doing some stuff and I need to get into my computer or whatever I'm doing and I can't, it's not working. Can I send in a ticket or whatever? Is somebody monitoring that to where they could do it in the evening or?
Sometimes. So what happens is I get actual alerts when network problems happen, right? There's a handful of guys on our team that get these alerts. So not so much the ticket system, but we hope to actually learn about problems before the ticket comes in.
Uh-huh.
Because what will happen is we'll see, oh, X, Y, and Z room went down, and we can usually figure that out. I monitor as much as I can be off hours, and so is Paul and Reggie on my team. But nothing official when it comes to
Got it.
an off hours person.
Okay, Thank you.
But we do get a lot of alerts and we can act quickly. That's what's great about it is we literally can fix things from not being here.
I did have one question for you, and my only concern is because you said that now faculty will be able to, do Zoom calls or Zoom meetings from their phone or from their laptop. Is there any security issues that you're concerned with as far as like people breaking into Zoom meetings or, something like that? Because I know that that's a common issue.
We had a lot of Zoom problems early on in the pandemic. And I think between some moves that we've made, some documentation that I've made, and as well as things that Zoom's done to mitigate that
Mhm.
stuff, it's a lot less an issue than it has been. And honestly, with the pandemic being not so much a thing anymore, it's less of kids trying to do weird stuff inside of meetings. It's more of adult to adult in many cases.
I see.
And the phones, it's not the same situation. It's literally a phone call. So it's not really much different than me or you dialing somebody on our AT&T or Verizon cell phones. It's encrypted in all the ways. And it's using our Google login, which is something that we've got security around, right? So everything sort of starts with Google and then you log in.
The
to Zoom with
multi-factor
Google.
authorization.
Multi-factor is a thing that we're going to try to move to next year for staff, we hope. The problem
Okay.
is it involves people's cell phones. And
Right.
there's a union problem around that. So
Right.
there's some things to deal with. And you can either hand out little USB sticks, which people lose, or there's other solutions, but there's a conversation. And that is absolutely the first step in the
Right.
cybersecurity conversation is multi-factor auth.
Right. I was only asking because when I used to teach at Sonoma State, one day I was, giving my lecture, and this actually happened to me, that somebody broke into our Zoom online classroom and started shouting all sorts of profanities, and it was really, terrible for the students and awkward. So it's traumatic. And then Sonoma State moved to multi-factor authorization, and then that seemed to add, another layer of security. So then things were working better.
Fortunately, that code on your cell phone is a little bit of a gotcha.
Right.
Or you could either do it to an email address, but that still requires another device. So there's tricky stuff around there. But I've got some ideas, and I think.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for all your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching.
All right. So we are now moving on to item 5.2, which is the consideration of the approval for the development of Sonoma County Virtual Academy, also known as SOCAA. Is that how you say that? With Mr. Williams, who's our new Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
Hi, good evening, board. And I'd like to invite up Catherine Mirabali to give you the presentation.
Do you want to lower the mic a little bit so we can hear you a little bit better? Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Is that better? Oh, thank you. Okay. So I'm Catherine Mirabali. I'm the program coordinator for independent study for Windsor Unified School District. And I'm here to talk about SOCOVA, which is Sonoma County's virtual academy, a school of choice program that we are proposing for this next school year. Next slide, please. So here's the timeline that we've put together. We met a couple of milestones already. We have talked with the superintendent about SOCOVA. Thank you. And in January 2023, and talking about the value of having this additional program. The program information was sought out by Edgenuity, which is also called Imagine Learning, but the platform is Edgenuity. So we've done a lot of research on pricing and how much budgets would be for that. And then the process for the application for a CDS code for SOCOVA. And so that happened in March 2023. In May, we assessed how many students to serve and talked about the cost analysis. We also, in June, this is where we are now, I'm here at the board meeting presenting to you. We are also going to come up with a marketing plan, talking about how we can recruit students.
Upgraded staff computers.
Sorry, Brad. um, and then in July, we will create a school within Edgenuity, do the marketing plan to the county and adjacent counties, and have informational Zooms for families and community. And our goal in August would to have 15 students. And then we have little benchmarks, 15 students, then 20, and then 25 and more. The goal by October, November is to keep the steady enrollment and then maintain the enrollment and the rigorous learning that happens in this platform. The academic program is for non-district students. This would be for inter-district transfer students only. This is working with Edgenuity platform grades 6 through 12. We are already familiar with the Edgenuity platform because we use it currently in our district. It does meet specific graduation credit requirements, and it's NCAA accredited grades 6 through 12 if the courses are taught by an Edgenuity teacher. I'll cover more of that in a little bit. There are also credit recovery courses available, and it also follows guidelines in the CDE Alternative School of Choice website. So where will we get these students? Well, our prospective students will come from surrounding districts within Sonoma County, as well as students from any adjoining county that are able to enroll in the online independent study program. So those counties include Marin, Contra Costa, Solano, Napa, Lake, and Mendocino. Students would work 100% online and can reach out to a Windsor Unified School District teacher or a live Imagine Edgenuity teacher for support. For family involvement, the recruitment would happen. Families would have informational Zooms to learn about the program. This would all take place before the 23-24 school year. Enrollment procedures would take place up to the first 2 weeks of school. Students and families would be signing master agreements. They would meet with the program coordinator to review the program, find out about the curriculum. And parents and guardians are also included in all conversations around student performance, especially around attendance and involvement. With teachers, the full-time independent study students must be overseen by a credentialed Windsor Unified School District employee. So that would be me. Imagine Edgenuity teachers would be instructing students daily. So as the program grows, we hope that we can involve more teachers and build the program. But to launch, we would have it, I would oversee the students and attendance and record keeping. But the Imagine Edgenuity teachers from the platform would be actually giving the instruction of the coursework for these students. And then the Windsor Unified teachers would be tracking attendance and reporting grades in Aries. Our budget would be for K through 5, $2,300 a student a semester, which includes 6 course enrollments. There's 2 electives and 4 core courses. The 6 through 12 students, it would be $3,500 a student, and they take 6 courses at a time. We also have Chromebooks and hotspots. Then the cost of the program, TOSA, which would oversee both programs to start. So students, we are looking to have 60 students total, K through 12, but our price point to break even is 13 students. So our goal is to get 60, but we'll start small and grow. So in order to break even. So, and then we are looking forward to presenting this to our community, to outreach communities. I've met a lot of families that are interested in this, families that aren't in Windsor but would like to have this option for their students. So.
Give some color commentary as well, if possible. So I think an important part of this is that these will be non-Windsor students, right? If they're a Windsor student, they go through our program with our teachers. And what she showed you the different counties. So it's an interesting education code that as long as we are touching that county, then we're allowed to educate those students through this type of program. And it's a missed opportunity. Frankly, these programs are usually run by private industry. Kava runs one, Pivot, Charter runs. I mean, they run these things. They usually partner with the district. The district gets a kickback, and then they pocket the majority of the dollars that come from the ADA. So the state has recognized this flaw in the system, and they're now allowing public school districts to start to educate through this independent study model as well. So, we're large enough to be able to do something like this. Not every district is. So I think we're positioned nicely for it. The name is so that we're not pigeonholing ourselves and just calling it Windsor. We're calling it Sonoma County, right? So that when somebody searches for an independent study program, we pop up. I think there's a lot of merit. I don't think there's any downside because we're actually going to run it with her already in place until we get to a break-even point, and then we'll decide that together. We've kind of talked about this. We're going to decide at what point it becomes too big for her to run both programs. And then we have to make a decision on, does she become full-time in this program? But it has to pay for itself
So
before
for
we make
ADA
that.
purposes, they would be considered Windsor students.
They would
even
be a
though it's
Windsor
throughout
uni-
the county.
They would be a Windsor Unified School District student.
Okay.
How are we communicating this to all the outlying areas? How did they find out about this?
They haven't yet because the first step is for you guys to decide that we want to do this through our handbook and approving the.
Do you have an idea
concept.
how you would communicate this out to?
I'll refer to you because I know you and Heather have talked a little bit.
I want to kind of do a marketing program where I could advertise throughout the county. Hopefully going through maybe the Sonoma County Office of Ed website, they have one school listed, and then hopefully we could get listed there as well. Going through Google, going through social media, going through, recruiting students to come up with some little like marketing presentation, a little nice logo that we can finalize and approve and get that out there. I know there's a need for it. I can think off the top of my head several families that are asking for it. So I know the need is out there, and I know once we get going with it and publicize it, it's gonna take off.
I think in fairness, we'd have to develop a strategy, Paul. I think, right, we're first we want to come to you, make sure this is a go. And then I know that Catherine and Heather will really get together and come up with some strategy.
Do you feel like that we'll be able to make that break-even point?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to say that
what's-
we will. I pushed this back because I kept making Catherine do a million other things because this was supposed to come in March, but I wasn't ready to have it come to
Okay.
you. And so ideally we would have had this conversation in March so that we could have gotten ahead of the school year. So now that we're pushed back, it's going to be tough, and that's on me. So I don't know. I think that we do the best we can. And with independent study online, it's a little different. The timeline's different. It's not the hard first day of school like everything else. So we might.
So I feel really confident that you're going to be able to pull it off and, break even. But I do have a small suggestion, and that is that I recently learned that at SCO, they're forming a new youth council. So I think maybe forming a partnership with that new youth council, because it'll be made up of high school students across the county. I think that could be a good resource for you, but I have no doubt that you will pull it off. Yeah, so thank you for a great presentation. Are there any other comments?
Yes. This is awesome. It's been a long time coming. Probably 11, 12 years ago, when I had my office downtown Windsor here, there was one of these independent places right below us. And they had 300 plus students that were doing this exact thing. Now, they went all the way down to LA
Yep.
and some different things. I don't know if you guys, well, if everybody, so those people at home, as Bill likes to say, the fact that we touch that very, very small little sliver of Contra Costa and that other little bit bigger sliver of Solano, this is basically this is a huge area. This has got, in my opinion, this has so much potential for us that if it took us a year or two of a loss, I wouldn't care because it would be worth the investment. This is gonna, well, it's gonna do two things. First off, it's gonna help a ton of kids that need this for them to do all the different things in their life that they're going through and get a good quality education. So that's number one. But the additional part of this is going to be a really, really good revenue generator. Just like our district was way ahead on some COVID things because we took advantage of the timing. This is the same. If we're early to this, I mean, I had somebody ask me literally about 2 weeks ago, hey, does Windsor have an independent program? Yes, we do. Do you have one where they can live where they live and then just kind of zoom in? I go, I'm not sure, right? I didn't think so, but I said, I'm not sure. And now we will. So I guess one of the questions is, let's say somebody lives in, pick a spot, Sebastopol, Glen Ellen or whatever, right? And they're doing this or anywhere that we can touch, that we can do this. Are these kids, there are kids, so they're allowed to do our extracurricular stuff, right?
No, not necessarily. So there's rules regarding that. And
Okay.
Catherine, you may know better, so correct me if I say something wrong, please. But the rules for alternative education, actually, Rich, you and I communicated about this. You'd have to house this on the campus.
Got it.
And then there's a way to allow those students to do the extracurriculars that the campus that they're housed on does.
Uh-huh.
But that's the only way.
Got it.
And because that would not kind of be the model here, these students it would be a separate school completely. So any
It
more?
would be more like a floating cloud school.
So
So,
for my memory serves, is this an independent school or is this an alternative school or is it a continuation school?
School of choice. So it's a school of choice. Alternative school of choice is what I think is designated. Correct, Catherine?
Because I thought only the continuation school was the one that applied to that.
Oh,
They
Rich, you
did.
might be right. That's a good call. You
For the
might be
record,
right.
no, I'm just kidding.
Well, look,
I
but
am
we did
now
look.
1-78.
We did look into it. Actually, we reached out to our legal. I remember being on that email.
It's continuation, I think.
But really, we had it in the opposite direction. We're not required to offer any of these things, but we might be able to. And that was the question that we left with, and we never got answered. Correct, Catherine? If I remember our email.
and we can dig deeper on that. And
Yeah.
find out more
Got it. So, and just to kind of wrap up, I just want to thank you personally. I know students who have gone through your program, and you have doggedly helped sometimes not as motivated people reach their potential. And that takes extra work, a lot of extra work, and a lot of extra work. And so I want to thank you just as a parent. It wasn't my kids, but I know the kids, and you have, for your extra diligence, you're making differences in kids' lives that they may not even appreciate until 10 years from now, and then they will start and go, oh my golly, she was so good. Oh my golly, I got to find her. Anyhow, I just want you to know that you're doing a great job, and the kids are lucky that they have you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that comment and compliment. I had teachers do the same for me. So especially in high school. So I'm more than happy to return the favor. Thank you.
Now, are we going to talk about this is just a presentation, or because there was
Oh, this is actually an approval. So within this presentation, there's a handbook
right?
that is essentially the way we designed this was asking you to approve the handbook, which is essentially approving the school.
Okay.
Okay, so then we would move forward with the next phase, which is recruitment of students.
So if I have a slight little modification
That's
that I'd like
making
to
now.
have in the book, is that
Yeah,
okay?
this would be the time.
So the only really, the main thing was because this is K through, I mean, it's a big spectrum of kids from just getting going to the older folks. On the, I think it's page 13 under the anti-bullying policy, it kind of had like a one and done kind of a death penalty type of a theme. And I would hope that we could take where the one right above it where it says the computer misuse and those first offense, second offense, we could take those and put those in there, somehow incorporate those in there. Now I realize right below that, you do have a kind of a sentence that says deviation from the above consequences, notwithstanding anything in this policy to the contrary. We had some flexibility, but I would like, and the reason why is because kids, when they're growing up, they might be bullying somebody. They may not even know it. They just think they're teasing and this and stuff. And so by having the same sort of a, depending on the nature of the offense, the consequence can include a written warning, referral, suspension, possible withdrawal. I mean, it just, there's a little bit more of some interaction with administration, teachers, with the kid, and just saying, hey, Richard, you can't say stuff like that to kids. When you post that, do you know how they felt? And that kind of an educational process, because again, remember, these kids aren't typically in a normal school. They're kids, everybody, not just kids. People get really brave when they're just on a computer and they don't have to worry about somebody confronting them or whatever with their comment or getting kicked in the shin, as some of us boys did when we were young. So I would like this. That was my only thing, is just maybe make those kind of things because we're going to be educating them in a different way, and online and through things. And so by having a progressive type of hey, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, and so that way the kids learn as well, especially because we have such a wide age group that some of the kids, that might be their first time they ever do something silly and or do something really bad, but they didn't really know the consequences or the depth of what they were doing because of their age and lack of ever having any sort of help along the way to learn what's acceptable, not acceptable, those kind of things. So I would like to have some sort of something similar in those kind of things as well. So I didn't know if this was we were approving it as is, or we could approve it subject to
We can make modifications.
a couple
but then
modifications,
I would
so.
ask
So
if the
I
board-
believe there's another comment from trustee Ahmad.
Yeah, so I actually have a related comment because I hadn't noticed that part of the booklet, but I think one of the issues is that cyberbullying in the booklet is defined through the consequences. We don't actually have a definition really of what cyberbullying is in the booklet, and maybe that was just an oversight, I don't know. But I think to Rich's point, it would help to clarify what is cyberbullying, because right now it just says like cyberbullying, this is the definition. Cyberbullying is not acceptable, and then kind of goes on. So we have to just clarify. And I think that will take care of probably.
I really agree with that, because I think that, if a teacher sees this handbook and they see that section on cyberbullying, it's just going to be an automatic, they're going to explain to their class what it is, and provide the education that Rich was suggesting, without us specifically, asking them to do that in the handbook. So.
I had another question too. I couldn't open the presentation. So this is
Yes.
the last slide?
No.
Or do you have more to go? You have more. Okay, I just wanted to check because I think we.
All the way through.
I
though.
got all the way, this is the last.
Oh, you
slide.
got all the way through. Okay.
Yeah,
just
I had
wanted-
the same problem, by the way. It wouldn't open for me when I tried to open the
interesting.
presentation. It wouldn't
Yeah.
open.
So then my question the last question I had is, you talk about Sonoma County, like this is obviously going to be marketed to kind of as a Sonoma County program. We talked about the adjoining counties. Are we restricted in offering it to Sonoma County and adjoining counties, or is that just kind of like we are officially restricted? And then maybe I missed this, but what are we doing for marketing? I know that there was, I think in July going to be.
We don't have it. We have not developed a marketing plan for this yet
Okay.
fully. We have ideas, of course, but we have not fully developed
Okay.
a marketing plan.
Got it. I think it's really exciting. I'm really excited about it. I think the more we can offer different options like this, the better. And I'm just really happy with what you're doing. So thank you.
Right. I agree. I think our world has changed, and now I think students are, or it's becoming normalized where you may have a class in person, then you may pivot to online, and then back to in person. So I think that, our children's brains are now wired for, I can go either way and have different educational opportunities. So I think it's wonderful.
That just sparked a thought in my mind. Can let's say a kid was in pick a Santa Rosa district and they had an interdistrict transfer with us, right? But then let's say they were having knee surgery, they had something, right? And they were going to be out for a little bit more of an extended time. Could they do this for like one semester to do their classes, or is it kind of more you're either in this school or you're not in this school?
Yeah, that's kind of how we designed it, Rich.
Okay.
Not like a fluid program.
Got it. Okay.
We would do something different for that student.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so are there any other comments or questions? No, so it looks like we need a motion to approve the handbook.
And what we'll do because you guys, we want to make that change to the cyberbullying section. I think we'll approve it and then we can bring back that section just so you have it, maybe put it on consent so you know that we've gone through it because you're going to want to see it, I think.
Okay, so it'll come back to consent.
I think so, but if you could approve it without that part, that
Okay.
way we can move forward and we
I
can
see.
fix that part.
Okay, so before we get to that, are there any comments from the public? No? So does somebody want to make a motion to approve, I guess we're approving the presentation and bringing back the handbook later?
Well, I would say if you prove the handbook,
I see.
accepting the cyberbullying section.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I'd like
Okay.
to make that motion. I'd like to make the motion that we accept this, both components, with the cyberbullying part that you guys are gonna take what we've said, fix it up, put it back, and we'll go through that. But yeah, to approve that, so subject to that one modification, I think, or Stephanie, was there two? Oh, and then the little definition, a little bit more of a definition.
Yeah. that's
So subject to
same
the
section, though, right?
cyberbullying issue, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, looks like it's 4-0.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
All right, so our next item is 5.3, which is the annual update of the Windsor Unified School District English Learner Advisory Committee and ELD. This item will be presented by Allison Riggs, the Student Services Coordinator. Thank you, Allison.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Allison Griggs. I'm the Student Services Coordinator with the school district, and one of the programs I help oversee is our English language development and the progress monitoring and data tracking that we do with that, along with communicating that information to parents. So that's what we'll look at tonight. We hold a number of meetings throughout the school year that parents can attend. These are District English Learner Advisory Committee meetings, school site-based English Learner Advisory Committee meetings, and Parent Advisory Council. So you can see the list of topics we have there. Some of those are required by the state, and some of those are based on parent interest. We survey at the start of the school year to find out what parents would like to hear more about. The newest topic that parents were interested in this year was CTE. So we had a presentation from one of our high school counselors for that. And our meetings are held some in person and some virtual. We've done some of both. We've actually had an increase in parent interest in having meetings over Zoom. The feedback was just to be able to be home with their student and be able to tune in from home. So we try to do a little bit of both. It's also helpful to have some meetings in person so that you can connect with families and build that relationship as well. As far as the services go that we provide for students, any student that's deemed a multilingual learner by the school district receives ELD support. That is designated time that's protected to focus on language standards and language needs of the student. And then that's also integrated into any curriculum and any content area a student has. So for a student to be deemed an English learner, a multilingual student, when they first enroll with us, we send a home language survey to the parent. The parent gives us that information, and based on those answers, we determine whether or not we need to assess the student. And then if we do need to assess the student, we determine what level of support that they'll need. We track student progress in a number of ways. One of those is a state assessment that we'll look at in just a minute. Another one is our local measure, which is a benchmark assessment. And so we do those every trimester for elementary students and every semester for secondary level students. And we'll look at that data in just a moment. We collect that and we develop those assessments based on the California English Learner Roadmap, the standards, and the LPAC, the state assessment that California requires. So those assessments that we developed locally, you can see the data here. This is the number of students that were able to score proficient or 80% or higher on that assessment by the end of the school year, by their third administration of the assessment. And so you can see in the district, there were 31.5% of our multilingual students able to improve to 80% or higher. And then you can also see school sites there. You might notice that Brooks does look significantly lower with only 10%. That could be for a number of reasons, but one of the things I really want to point out is Brooks has kind of restructured the way their designated ELD looks this year. And our students that are the highest performing, that are almost able to reclassify, they're usually at like a high level 3 out of the 4 levels that a student could be at. If they're at a high level 3, Brooks Elementary was able to take those students and put them in more mainstream time with their teacher and do less pullout, but they still receive designated ELD support. They just weren't taking the same test and the same assessment. So we don't have that data to compare kind of apples to apples. So those students that are doing the best at Brooks Elementary and ready to reclassify wouldn't be included in this 10%. So that kind of shows you why that if we don't have them on that measure, it's going to make the scores look even lower. Then I had mentioned we also have a state assessment, that's the LPAC. Students take an assessment for the LPAC every year. And prior to that, when they are first enrolled with us, based on that home language survey that I mentioned, they also take an initial assessment. That's taken once ever in their educational career. That's just to place them and get them started. And then we progress monitor annually. And so we'll look at that data next. For a student to reclassify based on that assessment, it's not just scoring a 4 on the LPAC, it's also the other criteria that you see listed there. It's going to be input from their teacher, input from a parent, and then another local measure that also shows that the student is ready to no longer receive designated ELD services. And when a student is ready to reclassify, we still monitor them. They no longer have designated ELD, but we still monitor them for 4 years. So here you can see that data. This is collected through the state up until 2020-21. With the pandemic, the state was no longer able to provide us with state and county data, so we started tracking our own. So that's what you see for last year and this year. Our own data tracking based on the number of students that we reclassified based on their LPAC scores and the other three criteria that you saw. So you can see there that some of those numbers in the past 3 years have a red asterisk next to them. Those are going to be the years where we had students reclassify through their IEP. Those would be students that have special education services and have an IEP, and the IEP team determined that the student no longer needed that ELD time because their learning need was preventing them from progressing in their language needs. And so that's pretty rare. We don't have a lot of that, but I wanted to at least note it with the red asterisk so you can see that that's going to inflate the numbers just a little bit. So you can see overall this year, we have been able to, since the pandemic, start improving our reclassification percentages again. And we're definitely seeing a lot of growth at the middle school. So it's been an improvement from last year. And that's all I have for our team this evening. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a clarifying question. Just thank you for the presentation. I want to make sure I understand the red asterisks at the end because I'm looking at it and like, does that apply to that whole percentage or does it just indicate that within that percentage there are students who were kind of deemed to be not needing that time?
Exactly. So
Okay.
it doesn't apply to the whole percentage. I would say actually the majority of that percentage is a true reclassification as far as scoring 4 on an LPAC and meeting those criteria. There are a handful of students, especially where you see at the high school that 44.9% 2 years ago. We had quite a few students that had reclassified through their IEP because that was the first year that the state reintroduced it again.
Okay. And I mean, I just want to know kind of from your perspective, how do you think we're doing? Because it's been like a very tumultuous period. There's been a lack of data. Like even here, we've kind of have some years of zero reclassification and from some sites. So I'm just kind of wondering like your gut check of like, how are we doing? Where are we going in the coming years?
I think that we're improving. The past 2 years were really challenging, especially with the pandemic and distance learning and not having that data from the state because we had a year of not having LPAC assessment at all. And also the struggle with having sub coverage was a factor as well. And so that challenged a lot of our teachers and students. I think this year was definitely not only a step in the right direction, but we had more energy coming from teachers ready to support their students. And we saw some improvements not only with our LPAC scores, but also we track our students, like I had said, every for 4 years after they reclassify. We were more concerned last year. This year is definitely an improvement. I'm hopeful. I think that we have good motivation going forward, and we have some fantastic new staff that's ready to support us this coming year. We have a new ELD TOSA and some new EL coordinators at sites, and I think that their motivation and excitement about taking on this next group of students is really going to benefit us.
Thanks.
So I have a question because I wanted to understand the process. So is there some sort of like average or baseline that you see for students, being reclassified as far as like acquiring, the sufficient language skills? So that's part of my question. And then also what happens after they reclassify? Do they continue to get language support or what happens after that point?
So as far as what happens after, the students are monitored for that 4 years. So each school site has
I
an
see.
EL coordinator that keeps monitoring the students. They wouldn't necessarily go back into ELD classes unless that was deemed necessary, but typically we would look at, is there another support the students need? Was there an intervention? Is it, I mean, it really depends on what it could be. It's almost like when we do our SSTs, our student studies team or student support teams. We look at, is it more of counseling? Is it more of a need at home? Is it more of a need academically when it comes to, if it were language? Usually if the student has already reclassified, we need to figure out something else. But it's just that monitoring for 4 years. And then,
Is there a
sorry.
baseline, like, for example, as far as students acquiring the sufficient language skills?
Yeah, so in the past, it was helpful to have the numbers from the state and the county. I think that's something that they're working to get back. Do you mean as far as our assessments that we do, like the
Yes.
local? So the local assessment, the benchmark we do, if a student meets that 80%, like I think we had 31.5% of our students did this year, they're typically going to be ready for that reclassification. They're typically in that group. Not 100% of the time, but it's been a pretty good indicator.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from the board? No? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this presentation? No? Okay. So now we are moving on to item 5.4, which is a request to recognize provisional intern permit for Adelina Sanchez as a new TK through 5th grade teacher at Calicameca to be presented by Pete Sullivan, Director of Human Resources.
Good evening. Thank you. So use of any PIP, it requires formal recognition at a board meeting by the CTC for application of this waiver in particular. So this is a procedural process. It's a procedural item. But Adelina Sanchez was hired as a first grade teacher at Cali. So she doesn't have her credential. She'll be working on it through the intern program at North Coast School of Education. And when she finishes, she will have her provisional intern permit from that institution. And she is a graduate of UC Davis with a degree in history. And she is looking forward to working with our students this year. And this is an action item, so it does require approval.
All right, are there any comments or questions?
No, no questions from me.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve this PIP.
I'll second Rich's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Thank you. All right, so now we are moving on to item 5.5, which is a consideration of approval of resolution 2023-19, approving the total base rent for the leaseback agreement with Arntz Builders for the Cali Calmeca Language Academy TK project. This item will be presented to the board by somebody who's not Austin.
By me, and really, it's going to be Brian. So
Okay, so
welcome
by
Brian to
Brian.
the
Thank you,
stage.
Brian.
Good afternoon. So, as discussed at the last board meeting, we brought the award of the leaseback contract to Arts Builders. And in order to alleviate some of the construction at Cali Calmecac, we broke up the contract into two separate pieces. So we're bringing the demolition of the existing buildings for approval. If we approve it tonight, we can get that done before the start of school and give the school a reprieve from construction till probably about December or January. So the total base rent for this was $124,435.51.
It's a resolution, so we'd have to do a roll call.
I don't think so.
Ready? Okay, I'll start in the end. Trustee Carnation,
Yes.
Trustee Lopez, Trustee Cagorno,
Yes.
Trustee Ahmad.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I like how this meeting is going.
Right?
Very, very quickly. So we're now moving on to item
She's got a
5.6.
muzzle on me.
We're moving on to item 5.6, consideration of approval of the Windsor Unified School District 2021 through 2024 Local Control Accountability Plan, also known as LCAP, and Local Performance Indicator with Mr. Brian Williams, our new Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Sharon Furr actually did all the work. So we'll give her all the credit for that. So tonight we're just respectfully requesting that you approve the 21 through 24 the LCAP and local performance indicator reflection plan. This will be the last action on this LCAP, and that will start us on the new process of creating our new LCAP.
Okay. Are there comments or questions before we approve this?
So I have a quick question, I think, and I don't know that it's totally fair to you because you just stepped into this role, but I know that we did kind of change up our LCAP process a little bit this year, I think, or no?
What we
Moving-
decided to finish, we finished up this
Okay.
3-year process. Next year in the development of our next 3-year LCAP is when we're changing the process.
Okay, got it. Then I don't think I have any questions about this.
Any other comments or questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. When the LCAP data was presented at the last board meeting, I noticed that we are still struggling as a district with our elementary students, specifically in math, a little bit in reading as well. And I know we're making great progress at the secondary level, but what I think is we need to dig deeper into why that's happening. we have had TOSAs, we've had the same curriculum for a number of years, and yet the scores don't seem to be getting any better on the state test, on the SBAC. So what I guess what I'm asking actually the superintendent if we could do a deeper dive into finding out what we can do to improve those scores.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. Absolutely. I think it's got to be a focus for our next LCAP, our next 3-year. I know that we're hoping to utilize RenStar and use that data to pivot a little sooner than we have been if a student's not getting something, but I think we can actually do a deeper dive for sure.
And the reason I bring that up is because RenStar is really good at what it does, identifying, but then you need to go to that next step and then apply where the areas of need and address it. And I'm not confident that we're actually making progress in that area.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's something that Brian and I can definitely put on our radar and focus on next year.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for that comment. I know that that's been a conversation that we've had a number of times on this board since like at least a year ago, that we noticed that, some of those numbers were not that great. So it's something that we've just been, discussing. And then also something that I noticed from reading the data that I thought was worth pointing out is that there were some really good questions, it looks like, from, people that took the LCAP as far as, how can we improve, just in certain areas overall. And one of those areas was engagement, so for example, student-teacher engagement, but also teacher-parent engagement. So I just felt like the questions were really well articulated in the data. So I'm hoping that, there's going to be some sort of like follow-up or what would be the next step, Jeremy?
I mean, the next step is to go through the process next year and really make changes based on the feedback that we got. So,
Well, because they were stated as really questions. So for example, how can we increase the engagement of, parent and teachers and then teachers and students? So I don't know if there's going to be more discussion, I guess, in this upcoming year about that. But it looks like there's just this set of questions that were included.
I think what's tricky about this one is because we plan to change this process and really change the entire face of our LCAP, we wanted to finish up with kind of what we've used the past couple of years with an eye towards making the change to our measures that matter and really looking at those indicators, right?
Right.
And then also giving some of the more of the decision-making power back to the sites. And so this was a tricky one because we didn't want to place a ton of emphasis on this one that you're approving so much because we're making such a change.
Right.
So honestly, we really just tried to finish this one off so that we can get to the next thing.
I get that. I think, something that came to mind right now is that somehow I think all of our efforts, that have been happening from like MTSS to, the Youth Truth Survey, to this LCAP, they all seem to be connected, and it always points back to, these relationships. So how are we building community? Right. So, I think that I'm going to look to you, to Jeremy,
Yes, ma'am.
as far as having a global perspective of, how do we connect all of these things that are being worked on?
Yes, ma'am.
So-
And I'm hoping that we're able to do that. I think we have a plan to do it.
Mhm.
And some of the admin retreat will really go through what that plan looks like.
Right.
And the sites are going to carry out similar. Anyway, I think that we can articulate what that plan is a
Okay.
little bit better in the future.
Yeah, and I think one more thing I was concerned about is because in the Youth Truth Survey, one of the things that came out is that there are a lot of students, I think especially in the early grades, that just don't have a sense of belonging. So I'm very concerned about that also keeps, popping up. So,
And that's one of our measures that matter. So absolutely, we'll be focused on it.
okay. And then Trustee Ahmad?
So I am really curious, Brian, to hear your thoughts on kind of this conversation, because I know this is something like we have a math teacher here in the room, and I know this is something that you've thought a lot about and worked on, like kind of these, especially the metrics that we use to measure and like making growth. So just want to hear your thoughts on this whole thing.
Sure. One of the major concerns with the LCAP is the disconnect from what's actually happening at the sites. And so the sites will produce the single plan for student achievement, or the SIPSA, and the district produces the LCAP. And there was almost no connection between those two documents. So our goal going forward is to actually start the work at the sites and have them develop, do their needs assessment, actually get the funding that's necessary to kind of, achieve their goals and develop their school plans, take it through their leadership teams, their parent groups, their school site council. Once that completed and they've done all the strategies and activities for the SIPSA, then we use those strategies and activities to actually do the actions and services that will go into the LCAP. So instead of doing a top-down approach, we're going to look at doing bottom-up, but really go to the experts, which are our teachers, our paraeducators, our classified staff, and our site administrators, and kind of have them actually do the work and then bring it together where we can kind of look at it. I have a 98-slide presentation for anyone that wants to sit through it, that I've been showing anyone who will sit still long enough, because I am very excited about this.
I actually might take you up on that.
Same.
The reason why is because for years, and when I say years, probably 25. So I gave Windsor 5 years to kind of take off, and then it kind of stayed the same and stuff. And no matter who I asked the questions of how do we get our math better, I always got, well, it is what it is, and this and that. And I never got anything substantive. You're the first person that actually told me, we're going to do this. And it's because I don't know how to make it better, right? I just know that I want it better. You're the first person that said, no, we're going to make it better. And what I did notice in all of our stuff that we had at our last board meeting, we had a 20% increase. And I think in one of our grades where they were competent. And I was going, okay, not sure how we got there, but I like that. That's a good something. So I am interested. I will sit down and watch your, what'd you say, 98?
We're going up to 98 slides, yeah.
Okay, 98. So I'll watch it because I'm sure I would learn a lot more and help me. It's frustrating to me when I know that there's an issue, whatever the issue is, and I don't have an answer to make it better. And it's just, that's not where I have that. I don't have it. So anyhow, so I'm looking to you and to you, but ultimately to you through our staff. And I have a lot of confidence in our folks to get there. And so, and I don't have a preferred, like the silos or the thises or the that's. I know that if I was getting educated, and I've told a few people this, I think I would have failed some math classes if I was being taught the way we're teaching today. Case in point, I mean, I've said this before. I got an A in geometry, and I struggle in algebra. And when you combine them and they're all kind of together, I think I would have done poorly at both instead. So I don't know what the answer is, but you guys get, that's how this is your profession. So I think by us as a board, Paul, I appreciate you bringing it up because again, this is what you do. You teach, and and I'm hopeful that our high school stuff does better. But the truth of the matter is, I've got grandkids that I want them to be really, really good at math, and they're in that group that Paul's talking about. So anyhow, Melanelli asked me if I could filibuster a little bit until she got back. So she's here, and and thank you.
And I'm going to propose that we do have a study session on this specific topic. So I think that in the fall, we should, I'll schedule something that goes through what our kind of plan is to address some of this.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate Malinali's comment also about the climate. When I was in Cloverdale, we had a consultant come in and say that just the attitude of the teacher alone, you could raise scores like some 10% just by creating that and I'm talking about that climate everywhere, from the classroom to the campus, in everywhere where the kids want to be there. It's not so much about learning the math or the reading, it's just that they want to be there and they want to perform. And I think if we can get that climate changed along with looking at, well, what are we doing, and taking that deeper dive into maybe the curriculum or whatever we need to do, I think we can. I know we can raise those scores. I'm absolutely confident we can. And that's your job. And your job.
Yes, sir.
The other component of that, I think, is like kind of the relationship side of it with the families and the parents, because I hear all the
working together.
time, and I don't know if this is a California thing, but it seems to kind of be like this, oh, I'm just not good at math. Like,
Mhm.
oh,
gotta
my
change
family's not good at
this.
math. This
Yes.
person's not good at math. Like, I don't hear people saying that like in other parts of the
Mm-mm,
world or in
mm-mm.
other cultures more
Right.
than I do here. Just kind of this idea that you can just say that you're not good at something. And I think we're gonna have to ask our families like directly to stop doing that. I honestly think it might help because I think it's kind of become almost a tick that people kind of just say that. And it's not actually true. Like not that many people can really be bad at math. Like it's just too big of a percentage, I think. I'll leave that up to the math teacher to.
Yeah, it's such a great comment because I remember, being in ninth grade. And by the way, I went to Hillsburg High School. So I remember being in ninth grade and my teacher, and not just saying it to me, but in front of the whole class said, "You're really bad at math," like in front of my whole class. And I remember being traumatized by that. And I was traumatized because the first thing that ran through my head is like, oh my God, I'm not going to get into college, And then I really fought to get into college because neither one of my parents went to college. They both went to sixth grade only. And I just remember working really hard and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to like work as hard as I possibly can to get into college. And then fast forward to, later when I did get into college, I got in to UC Berkeley on a full scholarship. And I went back to the teacher and I said, I got into the college of my dreams, thanks a lot. And she was so embarrassed, like her face turned red. But I feel like that needed to happen because that's just not acceptable, as Stephanie was saying, that they shouldn't be, making that comment. I think the question should be, how can I support you? You didn't do well on the test. How can I support you? Right. And I think you're so good at that. So I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, Brian, because I know that that's one of the things you excel in. So one of my favorite things that you say is, if the kid is falling behind, we're just going to carry him over the finish line or carry her over the finish line. Right. So
I think I say drag.
yeah, I was trying to be nice. Any other comments?
No, I'm just glad that we all know that there's an area that we can get better at, and that I feel good that we have staff that also feels like they have a way to get there, and that's hopeful, which is really good.
Yeah, and I think the study session is a fantastic idea. So thank you for suggesting that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you. Any public comments?
Stay there, buddy. Got Callie's.
Nope.
Callie's up
Okay.
next. Callie's
Then
up
we
next.
are moving right along to item 5.8, which is consideration of approval.
We have to make,
Oh,
we have
we
to
covered
vote.
that? Okay.
I'm sorry. That's right.
Do we have to approve that, LCAP?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, can I make a motion
Yes.
on item 5.6?
I'll second.
Oh, I see. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay,
Trustee
4-0.
Adams is
Thank
absent.
you. So now we're on 5.8, right?
5.7.
5.7.
Oh, we're still
Do it the
5.7.
same thing for Callie.
Callie.
Oh.
Hi, good evening.
Hey,
We're just requesting the same thing for Cali. As a charter school, it has its own LCAP.
So we just have-
No presentation. Just
No
no
presentation?
presentation.
Okay. Any comments? Because I know that there was a separate attachment for Kelly.
no comments on this one from me.
Did anything stick out for you? No? Okay. So can I get a motion or does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the Calicomic LCAP. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0 on 5.7. Okay, so now we're on 5.8, right? So 5.8 is the consideration of approval of the 2023-2024 adopted budget. And who's presenting on this one?
So the presentation was done at last board meeting and there were no changes requested by the board. So it's the
Yes.
same budget that was presented at the last meeting. And the governor, they finally came to an agreement and COLA stayed, which
good.
we anticipated. And actually, we don't know exactly what the effect is, but it looks like they reinstated some of our learning recovery block grant funding. So the cut was much less than anticipated.
Oh,
We
great.
had, so it doesn't change anything we were doing, but it gives us another year probably that we can have these things in place. There was also some change to Prop 28 funding that I don't understand yet. We haven't got briefed on it. But it sounds like the cut was less severe than anticipated for Prop 28 funding. So we shall see.
Okay, great. So we need a motion for this one?
You do, but we would also, yeah.
Just a question. So this is it, and not to be political or whatever, but just maybe slightly a little bit. Is there another chance between now and November of this year, where we could, like we have the May revised and blah, blah, blah. Is there another one where we could get something supplemental where the governor can come out and say, oh, hey, we found this, we did this, and poof? Is there a window, or, I mean, he
So
could do
there's
it.
not a window. So we have our 45-day revision period.
Right.
So if there's anything material that changes between our adopted and 45 days, we can come back. But yeah, so I don't know when all the tax revenue comes in. I have no idea when that time is. Austin probably does. I don't know.
Got it.
But I would imagine if that comes in way higher or way lower, it's going to affect what the state budget looks like.
Right.
So we'll see. But I know that the reason that the Learning Recovery Block Grant wasn't cut as much was because revenues came in better than originally anticipated. At least that's what I read. I read an article, guys. That's all we have at this point. So, I've got to get brief before I try to wax eloquently on this topic. I haven't done anything but read an article that you guys may have read too.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any public comments on this item? Looks like there's one.
I had a question that I wanted to just point out.
Can you tell us your name first?
Hi, I'm Diane Green. I'm
Illegally
the
parked.
WDEA secretary. So I was looking over the LCAP report, and in the LCAP report, it states that last year on June 29th, when we presented all this, that we were going to budget $19 million.
It's going to get you. You got to talk into the,
Oh, it's a mic.
is a mic on?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I
there
can
you
hear
go.
it. I can hear it.
Okay, so last June, when we did this same meeting, the district had budgeted $19 million for certificated salaries. And in the same report, 96 pages that I read, it says that we're estimating that our actuals for this last school year, were only $17 million that we spent on staff salaries, certificated staff salaries. And then in this year, this current budget that's being proposed or approved today, it states that we're budgeting roughly $22.5 million. So I'm wondering why the certificated salaries went up $5 million when there was no proposed salary increase. And we reduced staff last year, didn't we?
No,
little
we
bit?
didn't reduce staff last year, but I'm not sure, Diane. I can get the answer
Okay,
for you though.
because the $5 million seemed like a lot. So I just wanted to kind of check in on that if you.
I'll have to check because
Okay.
I don't want to, without knowing if we're looking at unrestricted and restricted combined for all of these, or just unrestricted, or if Callie's budget's included, a lot can change.
Sure.
So I'll find out for certain. I don't want to say something incorrect.
Yeah, okay, and I can send this to you guys.
Yes,
to
please.
review.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please
That would
do.
help me. Thank you,
Yeah,
Diane.
thank you. All right, any other public comments? Okay, can I get a motion?
I will move to approve the 2023-2024 adopted budget.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 4-0. Okay, so now we're moving on to item 5.9, which is the consideration of approval of education protection account report for 2022-2023 by somebody who's not Austin.
That's me. So this is something that we have to do every year. It's something in the state legislature that districts are required to take action on. We get funds. So they get funds in a certain account, the EPA account. They come to the district and they're required to be spent on salaries. So they were all spent on salaries. This was how much we got, and we have to report that we spent it on salaries. So
Okay.
that's what it is.
So this is just a report out?
No, you have to take action.
Okay, okay. Are there any public comments on this item for the consideration of approval of education protection account? Nope. Okay, seeing none. Are there any other comments from the trustees? No? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve 5.9. I'm sorry. Yeah. 5.9.
I'll second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 4-0.
And then we'll go back to 4.5.
So 4.5, the land acknowledgement.
Mhm. So you all have it in front of you, I hope. Yep. And this is a this is an email thread just because it was easier for me to forward. I didn't realize it was all going to print out.
Right.
But-
So now we're looking back at item 4.5, which is the land acknowledgement. So now we all have it in front of us. If you want to take a moment to read that. So
Do you want to just read it again?
I'll read it again because the print is a little bit light on the light side. So here it is again. So we acknowledge that we gather as the Windsor Unified School District in the town of Windsor on the ancestral homelands of the Miwok, Pomo, and Wapo tribes that historically has spanned an area from the Pacific coast to the northern San Francisco Bay Area and to the Lake District in Northern California, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We acknowledge that members of the Windsor Unified School District community have benefited and continue to benefit from the use and occupation of the land. With this acknowledgement, we welcome a spirit of collaboration and of being guided by the original stewards of this land as we embrace our responsibility to value education, community, and learning opportunities across our diverse cultures.
I really like it. I have a couple minor, super tiny tweaks that I will literally come over and show you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh.
So I think here have span,
Yeah.
and then I was thinking maybe we could add a period here and start with we, because it's
Yes.
would become a really long sentence.
Yeah.
So those are my tweaks.
Okay. I like it.
I think there is a period there, it just didn't show up.
Yeah. It's kind
Okay.
of it's not a great.
So I
copy.
literally made a couple grammatical like
Got it.
formatting suggestions, so nothing really worth commenting on.
I like it. Do you like it, Paul? Do you
I
feel
do.
comfortable?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great, fantastic. So does anybody want to make a motion to approve this tonight?
I'll make a motion that we approve this 4.5 with this amended language and Stephanie's fixes there. And yeah, so I'll make that motion, we approve it. And thank you, Melanie, for putting this together. Like Bill said, it's a long time coming, and I appreciate when people do extra effort behind the scenes that makes everything better for everybody. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I'll second it. So all those in favor?
I
Aye.
Thank you, 4-0. Okay,
I'd just like to point out that Molinelli is going to get us out of here before 8 p.m.
thank you.
So just saying, right?
Um,
I mean, yeah, even better.
Yeah. So this is fantastic. So thank you so much, to the public that was here, tonight. I appreciate you being here during the summer, as was said earlier. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
I second that motion.
All right, so this meeting is adjourned.
So our next meeting is when, August?
Yeah, should we even announce that? Do we know the date?